I was reviewing quarterly projections in my home office when the group text arrived. Family dinner Sunday. 6 p.m. Don't be late this time, Natalie. Try to dress appropriately. Mom's signature passive aggression. I almost declined. I shouldn't have gone. At least we're successful, Mom announced to the table, gesturing at my brother Marcus and his wife. Unlike some people. Her eyes landed on me. Some of us actually contribute to the family legacy. I said nothing. I opened my portfolio app under the table. My phone rang. Private number. Ms. Harrington, this is Richard Chin from Pacific Commerce Bank. Regarding the $200 million credit facility supporting Harrington Industries, you've requested withdrawal. Should we proceed? Across the table, my father's corporate card was declined at that exact moment. The waiter's face went pale. The Harringtons of Boston had been building things for 4 generations. Great-grandfather started with a single textile mill in 1923. Grandfather expanded into manufacturing. My father, William Harrington III, took the company into aerospace components, government contracts, the kind of business that made the family name mean something in certain circles. Marcus was groomed for succession from birth. Literally from birth. My parents announced his future CEO role in his birth announcement. I still have a copy somewhere. William and Catherine Harrington welcome Marcus William Harrington IV, future leader of Harrington Industries. When I arrived 3 years later, the announcement simply read, "The Harringtons welcome a daughter, Natalie." No destiny. No title. Just a daughter. My first clear memory of understanding my place came at age 6. We were at the annual company picnic and my father was introducing Marcus to board members. "This is my son," he'd say, hand on Marcus's shoulder. Future of Harrington Industries. Already showing leadership potential. When a board member asked about me, my father's hand dropped. "That's Natalie. She's creative." He said creative, the way other people say unemployed. The pattern solidified at age 11. Marcus had just won some junior business competition. A mock stock portfolio game where he turned imaginary $10,000 into imaginary $15,000. My parents threw a dinner party to celebrate. That same week I'd won the Regional Mathematics Olympiad. Actual competition. Actual trophy. Actually difficult. "That's nice, honey," my mother said when I showed her the trophy. "Put it in your room. We don't want to distract from Marcus's celebration." The trophy went in my room. Still there, actually, I never moved it. A reminder of what nice meant in the Harrington household. The third memory is sharper. I was 16 and I'd been accepted to a summer program at MI, early admission for exceptional students in quantitative fields. The program director had called personally to discuss my application essay about algorithmic market prediction. My parents said no. "Marcus has his internship at the company this summer," my mother explained. "We need to be available to support him. We can't split focus on your computer thing. It's MIT, Mom. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We know what MIT is, Natalie." The answer is still no. I went to regular summer school instead. I watched my brother photocopy documents and call it business experience. I taught myself options trading theory from library books and online courses. Something crystallized that summer. I understood finally that waiting for recognition was pointless. The family had already decided who mattered. I could spend my life trying to change their minds, or I could build something of my own. I chose building. What my family never knew, what I spent the next 15 years carefully concealing, was that the computer thing I'd wanted to study at MIT became the foundation of everything. I finished high school. I attended Boston University on academic scholarship. My parents wouldn't pay for a school that wasn't Harvard or Wharton, and I hadn't applied to either. I studied quantitative finance and computer science. I graduated summa cum laude. My parents didn't attend graduation. Marcus had a golf tournament. At 22, I took a job at a small hedge fund. Within 18 months, I'd developed a predictive algorithm that identified market inefficiencies with 73% accuracy. The fund's returns doubled. At 24, I left to start my own fund. Harrington Capital Management. I kept the family name because it opened doors, not because I felt any loyalty. Initial capital, $2.3 million from 3 investors who believed in my models. At 26, the fund managed $47 million. At 28, $340 million. At 31, I closed the fund to new investors at $1.2 billion in assets under management. Returns averaged 31% annually over 7 years. Financial publications started calling me the quiet oracle because I refused interviews and public appearances. Now, at 34, my personal net worth exceeded $890 million. I own 100% of Harrington Capital. I employed 47 people. I had a waiting list of institutional investors begging for allocation. And my family thought I worked as a financial analyst, making $65,000 a year. I let them believe it. Correcting them would have required conversations I didn't want to have. It was easier to nod along, to accept their pity, to watch them condescend without understanding. But the situation had grown more complicated 3 years ago. Harrington Industries was failing. The aerospace contracts were drying up, the manufacturing facilities were aging, and Marcus, now CEO at 34, had made a series of catastrophic decisions. He'd expanded into markets the company didn't understand. He'd taken on debt at terrible rates. He'd fired experienced executives and replaced them with fraternity brothers. By the time I noticed, the company was hemorrhaging $8 million per month. I could have let it fail. Almost did. But Harrington Industries employed 2,300 people. Real people with families, mortgages, children in school. Their livelihoods weren't their fault. They hadn't made the bad decisions. So I intervened. Anonymously. I created an investment vehicle called Northeastern Growth Partners. Through a series of intermediary funds, I purchased $200 million in distressed Harrington Industries debt, then converted it to a credit facility that kept the company solvent. The terms were favorable enough to prevent collapse but structured to give me control if payments were ever missed. My family had no idea. They thought some institutional investor had seen potential in the company. Marcus actually bragged about attracting sophisticated capital at family dinners. I never corrected him. For 3 years I'd watched my family mock my struggles, while their survival depended entirely on my money. They pitied me. They condescended to me. They excluded me from business conversations because I wouldn't understand the complexity. I understood the complexity better than any of them. And now, sitting at this dinner table watching my mother's performative success announcement, I was done pretending. The Sunday dinner had been tense from the moment I arrived. My mother had commented on my car, a practical Toyota Camry I kept specifically for family visits. Still driving that thing? Marcus just upgraded to the new Mercedes S-Class. My father had asked about my little analyst job, with the tone of someone asking about a child's finger painting. My brother had spent 20 minutes explaining basic business concepts to me, literally defining words like leverage and liquidity, as if I'd never encountered them before. And through it all I'd said nothing. Nodded politely. Eat my salad. The cruelty escalated with the second bottle of wine. Harrington Industries had our best quarter in 3 years, Marcus announced. Revenue up 12%. Dad and I are discussing expanding the board. Wonderful, my mother said. The Harrington legacy continues. She looked at me then. The look I'd seen my entire life, the assessment, the disappointment, the dismissal. At least we're successful. Unlike some people. Her voice carried across the table. Some of us actually contribute to the family legacy. I said nothing. Catherine, my father said mildly. It wasn't a rebuke, it was a reminder to maintain appearances. What? It's true. We've worked hard for what we have. We've built something. What has Natalie built? She rents an apartment in a decent neighborhood, I suppose. That's something. I actually own the building, but who was counting? Mom, come on, Marcus said, not defending me, performing modesty. Natalie does her best. Not everyone is cut out for real business. I'm just saying at 34 I expected more. Your father and I gave you every advantage. Every advantage except their attention, support, or presence at a single important moment in my life. But sure. I opened my portfolio app under the table. Not checking anything, just needing something to focus on that wasn't my mother's face. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Pacific Commerce Bank Private Wealth. I'd forgotten about the call. 3 days ago, I'd requested a review of the Northeastern Growth Partners holdings. A routine quarterly check. My banker was calling to confirm some details. But the timing was extraordinary. I answered, keeping my voice low. Yes. Ms. Harrington, this is Richard Chin from Pacific Commerce Bank, Private Wealth Division. I'm calling about the Northeastern Growth Partners credit facility supporting Harrington Industries. You've flagged the position for potential withdrawal. With the current principal at $200 million, plus accrued interest at $14.3 million, should we proceed with the withdrawal process? My mother's voice cut across the table. Natalie, put the phone away. We're having family dinner. Whatever financial crisis you're having can wait. I met her eyes. Proceed with the withdrawal assessment, I said clearly. And please send the preliminary impact report to my office. Of course, Ms. Harrington. I should mention, our analysis indicates that withdrawal would likely trigger immediate credit rating downgrades for the company in question. The board should be notified. Across the table, my father's corporate credit card had just been declined. The waiter was standing awkwardly, the card reader showing an error. There seems to be an issue with the card, sir. My father's face flushed. Run it again. The waiter ran it again. Declined. I'll handle it, I said, ending the bank call and pulling out my own card, a black Amex I rarely used. Put the dinner on this. The waiter accepted it gratefully and disappeared. My mother was staring at me. Where did you get that card? American Express. You know what I mean. I smiled slightly. Do I? My father's card declined wasn't catastrophic on its own. Credit cards glitch. Systems fail. But the timing had shaken something loose. Must be a bank error, my father said, but his voice was uncertain. He pulled out his phone. I'll call in the morning. The company credit line, Marcus said suddenly. We drew on it heavily this month for the expansion. Maybe there's a temporary hold. There shouldn't be a hold. We're well within limits. I watched them reassure each other. They had no idea. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that 3 hours ago, my routine quarterly review had flagged something concerning. Harrington Industries had missed a covenant on the credit facility. Not dramatically, a technical violation involving debt-to-equity ratios, but enough to trigger enhanced monitoring. I hadn't actually requested withdrawal. I'd requested assessment. But Richard Chin, being thorough, had called to confirm before initiating any process. The card decline was coincidental, probably a fraud alert from unusual spending patterns. But my family didn't know that. And their reaction told me everything about their financial anxiety. Harrington Industries was more fragile than I'd realized. I excused myself from the table ostensibly to use the restroom. Instead, I found a quiet hallway and called Christine, my executive assistant. Christine, I need a comprehensive report on Harrington Industries. Current cash position, outstanding obligations, covenant status on all credit facilities. Everything. Timeline. No. And pull the Northeastern Growth Partners structure documents. I want to understand exactly what happens if I unwind the position. Natalie. Christine was one of 3 people who knew my real identity. Are you sure? That's your family's company. I know. Unwinding $200 million would effectively collapse their operating capital. They wouldn't survive 60 days. I know that too. Christine paused. What happened? My mother informed me that I don't contribute to the family legacy. I'm considering demonstrating exactly how much I contribute. Understood. Report in 15 minutes. I returned to the table. The atmosphere had shifted. My father was still on his phone having a tense conversation with someone, his assistant probably, or the bank. Marcus was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Everything all right? I asked, sitting down. Fine, Marcus said quickly. Just sorting out a bank thing. Probably a fraud alert. That happens. You wouldn't understand. Corporate accounts are complicated. I'm sure they are. The dinner continued, but the energy had changed. My parents were distracted. Marcus kept checking his phone. The triumphant atmosphere from earlier had curdled into anxiety. Dessert arrived, creme brulee that my mother had specifically ordered to celebrate Marcus's best quarter. Nobody seemed interested in celebrating anymore. My phone buzzed. Christine. Report attached. Summary. Harrington Industries' current cash is $3.4 million against monthly burn of $7.8 million. They're surviving on the credit facility. 3 covenant violations in past 90 days. All technical, all currently under cure. If NGP withdraws support, company defaults within 45 days. Also, their primary bank, Wellington Trust, has flagged the account for enhanced review. That's probably why the card declined, fraud algorithms triggered by unusual patterns. I read the report carefully. My family was 45 days from bankruptcy, and they were lecturing me about financial responsibility. A second text from Christine. Should I prepare the withdrawal documentation? I typed back, not yet. Prepare instead. Full position disclosure package. I want them to know exactly who's been keeping them alive. You want to tell them? No. I want them to find out. I didn't plan what happened next. Or maybe I did somewhere beneath conscious thought. Maybe I'd been planning it for 30 years. The dinner ended awkwardly. My parents left first, my father still on the phone with the bank. Marcus lingered watching me. That card, he said. The black Amex. How do you have one of those? They require minimum annual spend of $250,000. Do they? Are you in debt, Natalie? Is that why you live so modestly? Are you spending beyond your means? I almost laughed. No, Marcus. I'm not in debt. Then how? His phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his face changed. I need to take this. It's Wellington Trust. Our primary bank. Of course. He walked away and I heard fragments of his conversation. What do you mean, credit review? The facility is guaranteed. Who's Northeastern Growth Partners? I don't understand. I waited. Marcus came back. His face had gone pale. Natalie, do you know anything about an investment fund called Northeastern Growth Partners? Should I? The bank says our entire credit facility, $200 million, is backed by a company called Northeastern Growth Partners. They're requesting a meeting with the fund's principal. But no one at Wellington Trust knows who actually owns it. I said nothing. The fund is controlled through something called Harrington Capital Management. He was watching me carefully now. That's a strange coincidence. Another Harrington. Is it? Natalie. His voice hardened. What the hell is going on? I think you should call the bank back and give them my name. Why would I? He stopped. His phone was buzzing again. Hold on. He answered. I watched his face. Yes, I'm Marcus Harrington, VO of. What? That's impossible. She's standing right here. Are you sure? His phone slipped from his fingers. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Natalie. Yes. The bank says. They say you're the primary investor behind Northeastern Growth Partners. They say you've been funding our credit facility for 3 years. They say without your capital, Harrington Industries would have declared bankruptcy in 2022. I nodded. $200 million, he whispered. You gave us $200 million. I gave you credit. There's a difference. But, you're a financial analyst. You make $65,000 a year. Mom says a lot of things. Very few of them are accurate. My phone rang. Richard Chin again. Ms. Harrington, apologies for the interruption. I've completed the withdrawal assessment, and I wanted to inform you that we've received an inquiry from Wellington Trust regarding Northeastern Growth Partners' position. They've apparently identified you as the beneficial owner. Should I confirm? Yes, I said, keeping my eyes on Marcus. Confirm my identity. And please send the full position documentation to Marcus Harrington, CEO of Harrington Industries. He should understand exactly what he's been working with. Of course. And Ms. Harrington, for the record, should I note that the current position represents approximately 87% of Harrington Industries' operating capital. You should. I ended the call. Marcus had sat down on a nearby bench. His face was gray. 87%, he said. We've been operating on your money. For 3 years. Correct. And you never said anything. At every dinner, every holiday, every time Mom compared us, you never said anything. No. Why? I considered the question. Initially, because I didn't want Harrington Industries to fail. 2,300 employees depend on that company. Their lives aren't their fault. And now I'm reconsidering my priorities. Marcus's phone rang. He looked at the screen. It's Dad, he said. The bank must have called him too. You should answer. He did. I heard my father's voice loud enough to carry, "What the hell is going on, Marcus? Wellington Trust just told me that our entire operation depends on some fund controlled by your sister. That's impossible. Natalie doesn't have that kind of money. They must be confused." Marcus looked at me. "Dad, she's standing right here. I don't think they're confused. Put her on." Marcus handed me the phone. "Dad. Natalie, what is this nonsense? The bank is claiming. The bank is telling you the truth. Northeastern Growth Partners is mine. Harrington Capital Management is mine. I've been funding Harrington Industries' credit facility for 3 years. Without my capital, the company would have collapsed before Marcus's first anniversary as CEO." Silence. "How?" my father finally managed. "How is this possible?" "I built something, Dad. The same way you did. I just did it quietly. But your job, your apartment. I own a hedge fund with $1.4 billion in assets under management. My personal net worth is $890 million. I own the building I live in. I own several buildings, actually." More silence. "I don't understand." "No," I said. "You never did." The next 72 hours were chaos. Wellington Trust, now understanding the full picture, immediately flagged Harrington Industries for enhanced credit review. The covenant violations that I'd been quietly overlooking for months suddenly mattered. The bank wanted meetings, documentation, assurances. My father and Marcus called me 17 times. I answered none of them. My mother sent a text. "Natalie, this is clearly a misunderstanding. Please call so we can sort this out. Family should stick together." I didn't respond. On day 2, Marcus's corporate credit cards were frozen pending the credit review. His Mercedes was a lease. The payments bounced. His wife called me crying, asking what was happening. "I'd recommend speaking with your husband," I told her. On day 3, Harrington Industries' CFO resigned. He'd apparently discovered the full extent of the company's dependence on my capital and decided he didn't want to be aboard when the ship sank. The board demanded an emergency meeting. I was not invited, despite technically being the company's largest creditor. 1 week after the dinner, the situation had deteriorated significantly. Wellington Trust, having completed their review, issued new terms for continued banking relationship. 15% reduction in credit limits, increased collateral requirements and quarterly audits. The terms were survivable but barely. More critically, word had spread. In Boston business circles, rumors swirled about Harrington Industries' hidden dependencies and secret family drama. 3 major clients requested meetings to discuss supply chain stability concerns. Marcus called again. This time I answered. "Natalie, please. I'm begging you. The company is falling apart." "Is it?" 2 clients are threatening to move their contracts. The board is talking about replacing me. Dad had to mortgage the house to cover operating expenses. I felt something, not quite satisfaction, not quite pity. Something in between. "What would you like me to do, Marcus?" "Keep the credit facility in place. Don't withdraw. We'll pay you back, I swear, we just need time. You've had 3 years. In that time, you've expanded into 3 failing markets, fired your best executives, and accumulated $34 million in additional debt. You haven't demonstrated any capacity for managing what you have. I made mistakes. I admit it. But you can't destroy the family company to punish me. I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply considering whether my capital is well deployed. And I haven't decided yet." I hung up. The truth was more complicated than Marcus understood. I didn't want Harrington Industries to fail. Those 2,300 employees still mattered. The company my great-grandfather built still meant something, even if my father and brother had nearly ruined it. But I also couldn't continue enabling their incompetence. My capital was rescuing them from consequences they'd earned. That wasn't kindness, it was enabling. I needed a different solution. 3 weeks after the dinner, I requested a meeting with my family. All of them. My parents, Marcus, even Marcus's wife Jennifer. We met at my offices, not my hedge fund headquarters, but a satellite location I kept for exactly these situations. Neutral ground that I controlled. They arrived together, presenting a united front. My mother's face was set in rigid disapproval. My father looked older, defeated. Marcus was pale but determined. Jennifer stayed slightly behind, uncertain of her role. "Thank you for coming," I said. "You've destroyed us," my mother began immediately. "3 generations of Harrington success, and you've destroyed it because you couldn't handle being told the truth about yourself." I let the words hang in the air. What truth would that be? That you're not like us. That you've never fit in. That some people are meant to build things and others are meant to do whatever you do. "What I do," I said calmly, "is manage $1.4 billion in investment capital. What I do is generate returns that exceed the S&P by an average of 23% annually. What I do is fund the credit facility that has kept your company alive for 3 years." My mother's jaw tightened. "But you're right about one thing. I'm not like you. I've never fit in. And I'm done pretending I want to." I slid a folder across the table. "This is a restructuring proposal. I'm offering to convert the Northeastern Growth Partners credit facility into equity. In exchange for forgiving the $214.3 million debt, including accrued interest, I will take 51% ownership of Harrington Industries." Marcus's face went red. "You want to take my company?" "I want to save your company. There's a difference. I won't accept this. I'm the CEO. The board won't. The board will do whatever keeps them out of personal liability. And Marcus, let me be clear. If I withdraw my capital, Harrington Industries defaults within 45 days. Every board member knows this now. They will accept any solution that prevents that outcome." My father spoke for the first time. "You would really do this? Take our life's work?" I met his eyes. "Your life's work was failing. Your golden child nearly destroyed it. I'm offering to save it, but not as your silent benefactor anymore. If my money keeps Harrington Industries alive, I want the authority to ensure it stays alive." "And what happens to me?" Marcus asked. "If you take majority control, you remain CEO. For now. With a performance improvement plan and quarterly reviews. If you demonstrate competence, you keep your position. If you don't, I replace you with someone who can actually run the company." "That's humiliating." "No. That's accountability. Something you've never experienced." The room was silent. "You have 72 hours to decide," I said. "Accept the restructuring and Harrington Industries survives with me as majority owner. Refuse and I withdraw my capital. The choice is yours." They accepted. Of course they did. There was never any real choice. Accept my terms or watch the company collapse. Even my family could do that math. The restructuring closed 6 weeks later. I became majority owner of Harrington Industries, the company that was supposed to belong to Marcus. The legacy I was never meant to inherit. I didn't gloat. I didn't deliver triumphant speeches. I simply did what I'd always done. Worked quietly, competently, without need for recognition. Marcus remained CEO as promised. To his credit, he seemed to understand the gravity of his position. He stopped hiring fraternity brothers. He started listening to the experienced executives I brought back. He even occasionally asked for my input. I gave it when appropriate. Withheld it when he needed to learn. My parents were more difficult. They couldn't reconcile the daughter they'd dismissed with the woman who now controlled their legacy. Family dinners, the few we still had, were awkward, stilted affairs. "I don't understand how this happened," my mother said at one such dinner months later. "You were always so quiet." "Quiet isn't the same as absent," I replied. "I was always here, Mom. You just weren't watching." I suppose I wasn't. It was the closest she'd ever come to an apology. I accepted it for what it was. My father took a different approach. He started calling me weekly, not to discuss business but just to talk. He asked about my life, my work, things he'd never shown interest in before. "I wasted 30 years thinking I knew who you were," he admitted during one call. "I was wrong." "Yes," I agreed. "I'm sorry." I considered the words. Decades of dismissal, of being overlooked, of being treated as less than. Could 2 words address all of that? No. But they were a start. "Thank you, Dad." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was acknowledgement that the past had happened, that they'd failed me, that I'd succeeded anyway. That's all I'd ever really wanted. 6 months after the restructuring, Harrington Industries posted its first genuinely profitable quarter in 4 years. The stock price recovered. The employees kept their jobs. The company survived. I stood in the boardroom that had intimidated me as a child, now sitting at the head of the table. Good quarter, Marcus said, reviewing the numbers. Really good. Yes. We couldn't have done it without you. I looked at him, my older brother, the golden child, the heir apparent who'd nearly destroyed everything. He was learning. Slowly, painfully, but learning. No, I agreed. You couldn't. It wasn't kind. But it was true. A year later, I endowed a scholarship at Boston University. The Natalie Harrington Fund for Quantitative Excellence. Full ride for students pursuing mathematics, finance, or computer science. The first recipient was a 17-year-old girl from a working-class family in Somerville. She reminded me of myself, quiet, overlooked, brilliant in ways no one had noticed yet. Why are you doing this? She asked at the award ceremony. Why me? Because someone should have done it for me, I replied. And because quiet isn't the same as invisible. Someone needs to be watching for people like us. He went on to MIT. Full scholarship. I didn't attend her graduation. I didn't need to. Some victories don't require witnesses. Some contributions don't need credit. Some legacies are built in silence by people no one was watching. I'd learned that the hard way, and now I was passing it on.